Johnny, thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure.
I've seen a lot about what you're up to on social media, and all your positivity that you're trying to spread across the world.
Yeah, trying.
You know, I think that's quite a big issue with the world at the minute.
Yeah.
People are struggling.
Yeah, they are. It's not surprising either, really, if you think about it. You know, if you could design a mental health sort of pandemic or global catastrophe of sort of mental health, it would look like this, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It really would. If you could design it, it would look like this.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that people are struggling. And I think as well, we've been given a lot of, you know, perception of negativity and positivity is interesting. We've had a lot of food for thought recently. And I think a lot of the way we live our life has been challenged.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to cause a lot of people to feel anxious and a little bit sort of scared, if I'm honest,
absolutely.
about what does this mean? You know, that might mean that people realize they don't enjoy their jobs because they've not been there. They might not even enjoy some of the people that live in their house. Which
I've been there.
Yeah, so with that said, I think that's a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
Some of the major staples of your life are being challenged all of a sudden, and what do you do with that information? Do you ignore it or do you do something about it?
Well,
yeah. Either one's
that's down to yourself, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and it's that's why I think people are noticing it. You know, that I think sometimes when you live somewhere, whether it's a country or whatever, you will have a certain way of living your life. And I think for the first time ever, well, not ever, but for the first time, certainly in a long time, we're all in the same boat. And
absolutely,
it doesn't matter where you are in the world.
No,
it's like, you're affected by this one thing or these multiple things that are going on. So yeah, it's terrifying times, but there is a lot to be taken out of it that's positive, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We'll get into that anyway. But, so, life coach.
Yeah.
Fitness coach.
Wow.
Strength coach. Father of two.
Yes.
Husband.
Yeah, that's right. All those things.
And what would you say that has brought you into being a coach in general, really?
Well, I've just recently realised and I've decided upon a name. I've been a health and fitness coach, a personal trainer since 2006, and before that I was a professional wrestler, which is yeah, people find that quite random.
Wow.
But yeah, yeah, I was a professional wrestler, and
well, like WWE.
Yeah,
I
went to a gym. I lived in Hertfordshire, and there was a gym, a well-known gym that taught wrestling. And all sorts of, I think arguably it was a mixed martial arts gym before mixed martial arts was a thing.
Right.
And there was a lot of different disciplines there, and I was quite interested in going there. It was in Sittingbourne in Kent. And I took my biggest, baddest mate I could find. It looked like a henchman from a Bond movie. And I said, I need you to come with me because I'm too scared, basically. And he said, no problem. And I went in there. We both got beaten up.
Did you?
Yeah, it wasn't great. Like, you think you could fight or you think you can take care of yourself, and then you go to a gym like that and they soon teach you differently. But he didn't enjoy it at all, whereas I did. And I kept going back. He stopped. And after 3 months or so of getting my sort of head kicked in, really, I had a 60-year-old guy come over and teach me some moves, and that was it. From then on, I was into some fighting. And then one time I had the opportunity to do some professional wrestling, and I grew up watching professional wrestling. I loved it.
I did, yeah.
Absolutely loved it. It was a bit of an escape for me, much needed one. Yeah. And when I had the opportunity to do that, I mean, they call it a job. It's not a job. It's absolutely fantastic, you know? Yeah. It was a really great way to sort of learn, really, and evolve. There's so many, you know, if you look at some of the most successful people in the world, look at Dwayne Johnson, look at John Cena, you know, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from the professional wrestling industry.
Definitely, yeah.
But anyway, I came out of that because I was injured, and I met my wife, and I became a PT. It seemed like the next natural step. I was very much into the gym. I was always in there. And I found myself giving advice to people in the gym, right, on what to do and how to do it. usually not what to do. You know, people swinging weights. I'm like, dude, that's not really.
Yeah.
You know,
But
so,
people get a bit funny if you tell them, don't they?
yeah, and that's where I think you need the education,
Yeah.
because there is a certain approach. I mean, early on, I criticised. No, I suppose I was trying to give feedback on somebody's squats, only to realise that what they were doing was on purpose. It was intentional. It's because they were doing a certain sport, and that was a requirement for their sport. So you learn to ask, oh, why is it you're doing it that way?
Yeah,
And things
yeah.
like that. But the health and fitness industry was great. I loved it. I loved helping people. I lived in Hertfordshire near London, so I had so many great opportunities to meet people that are now technically famous, I suppose.
All
So
right.
they did really well, and it taught me, on hindsight, that I love helping people,
Yeah.
and that helping people, I have a passion for it and I have a talent for it. But over time, it was actually my 40th birthday.
Why do you think? Sorry to
No,
interrupt.
don't carry
Why do you think that you like to help people? What is it about helping people that you get so much from?
It's tied. It's heavy, really. If I'm honest, it's tied to my trauma, my childhood trauma.
Yeah.
I'm a trauma survivor. That's what this is recent language that I've learned. And I witnessed domestic violence done towards my mother and my siblings, and obviously that I was hurt too. So there's some child abuse in there, and I think that when you grow up in that environment, there are certain things that come into your scope. You know, hypervigilance, fear of failure, all these different things, all these different ways of being. But one thing you become really good at is problem solving. You know, so you're always.
Bring it a bit closer, mate.
Sorry.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. So you're always looking around for danger.
Yeah.
You know, all the time, because that's what you're basically trained to do.
Yeah.
But you also, well, I did anyway. I became sort of a father figure to my siblings, and a support network to my mum.
Younger siblings.
Yeah. So I was the oldest. And my mum always refers to me as her life coach from beginning. You know, there's some of the stuff that was put on me, and I'm not angry about it. My mum needed somebody, and I was there. But you know, from early memories, from 8 years old, I can remember sitting there with my mum talking about some heavy stuff.
Yep.
You know, talking about debt and domestic violence and various other things. So I became very good at helping my mum and problem solving.
So you grew up quickly then?
Yeah. And one of the things I've recently found out is that, yes, I have a passion and a talent for helping people, but one of the things I didn't realize was I also had an addiction to it. I was addicted to helping people, which meant it was a compulsion. And the issue there is that if you want to be really good at helping people and still stay sane, you have to choose to help people, not feel compelled to. And that's something that I've had to learn recently in the last few years. A story I've told before many times is my son and I went to a electrical store in Truro to get a camera stand.
Right.
And there was a woman on the phone in front of us. She's crying her eyes out on this phone call, and she comes off, and I just couldn't help it. I felt so compelled. I was like, "Excuse me, are you okay?" She's breaking her heart in this queue, and I couldn't watch it. It was awful. And I won't go through the entire story, but she had had a succession of really unfortunate phone calls, and she needed to change her perspective on things, and that's what we did. We had a conversation and basically coached her in the queue.
Yep.
But what was wonderful is after a few days she got back to me and got in contact with me through social media, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're like an angel." And I was like, "Okay, I've never been called an angel before, but cool, I'll take that one on." But going back to what I was saying, I think I enjoy. I don't know, if I'm honest. I don't know why I feel drawn to, but I know it's tied to the trauma. I think I like seeing other people be okay. You know, I like knowing that when somebody comes to me that they're in a good place, because there's nobody that cares more, and that's the truth. I just enjoy. I really enjoy it. There's nothing makes me happier than seeing somebody succeed.
Absolutely, yeah. But some people don't like some people for instance, doing a podcast, setting up a podcast, right? People like to, oh, he's doing well, You know, he's set up a podcast. You know,
Yeah.
he's doing this, he's doing that. But you don't want to get doing too well, because then it's like, oh, well, you know, he's getting a bit too big for his boots now. Some people don't like people going on to be too successful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
I think that stems from people not being happy with what they're doing.
most likely. A lot of the time, I've come to realize in life that a lot of behaviors that come from other people that are unpleasant to experience or hard to watch or hard to be around is usually about them. It's a lot less to do with you than you realize, you know. Jealousy is definitely one of them, obviously, but you know, you're obviously got a talent for this. You know, you've gone to a lot of trouble. My personal experience, I know how much trouble you've gone to, and I know how hard
this has been 6 months in the making.
Yeah, it's not easy.
COVID hit, and I wanted to be able to have that personal, having to be sat in front of someone, having a chat and talking, and like obviously at certain points of the year we couldn't do that. Like setting up this podcast, like we said just before, you know, I didn't even have a computer.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about microphones, audio, what sort of cables you need, cameras.
It's a lot to learn.
Stands.
Yeah.
Like, and then putting it all together, and it's like, oh my goodness me.
But I think it's important, and it's something that I had to do myself, was to take that opportunity to actually acknowledge that, to actually think, man, I did this. I managed to create this. I managed to work this all out. Yeah. Because there are lots of people that would look at all this and go, no thanks. They just wouldn't bother. And that's okay, but you did.
But like for me, I felt like, so like I've had a career. So I've had a career that's done me a good stead. It's got me a house. It's provided for my family, but I've always held quite high standards for myself as a young man.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like I've got more to give. I don't know what it is. And I've been looking for what I want to do for 10 years.
Really?
10 years it's taken me to figure out what can I do? What can I do with my life that I can actually make an impact on my own life as well as other people's?
Yeah.
And I've literally gone to all lengths and extremes, and stress and worry about life just getting away from me.
Yeah.
And I've not achieved anything.
I don't think that's true.
No, but it's do you know what I mean? Unlike when I sit back and, you know, if I just sit there and just think about what I've got in my life, I've got so much more than other people.
Yeah.
And I've got so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And but I just like I said, I've got such high standards for myself that I feel that if I can give a bit more, I don't feel like I should hold back from that. I just want to.
No, go for it, because most likely them restrictions that you're feeling, that restrictor that's put on you, is not from you. You know what you want to do. Yeah. It's other people around you who put their anxieties and their insecurities and their limiting beliefs on you. And they don't mean to. They don't do it to be unkind. It comes from a good place. They care about you, and most likely they don't want to see you fail, because to them, in their mind, that's the worst ever. But sometimes I find, and I found very often, that I would rather try and fail than to sit back one day when I'm 80, 90 years old and think, I wish I'd tried. Because there's nothing you can do about it then. Yeah.
Like I said, you know, 10 years or so, I've tried things and completely like, I can't do this. It's not for me. Right. Try something else. Try do this, try and do that. And I don't know, I've just sort of come to the point where something just clicked.
Yeah.
I love watching podcasts. I listen to podcasts. I'm in a vehicle for 1 to 3 hours a day driving.
Godsend.
So play. Yeah. You know, I don't want to listen to some terrible radio stations.
no specific ones.
I won't know. Any local ones anyway. And you know, I wanted to sort of, you know, what am I doing with my time? I'm spending all this time in a vehicle driving around. What can I do with my time that I can take from this? So like listen to a podcast. And then when I listen to a podcast, I think, right, no, I don't want to listen to that one. That one's not. I'm not going to get anything out of that. Right? Yeah, I'll listen to that one.
Yeah.
I can get something out of that. I know that person will offer something.
Yeah.
They're interesting. And I'm always picking people's brains.
Asking questions. Yeah. I'm the same. It's a nightmare. People hate it. It's like when I go to seminars and stuff, I'm that guy that's like, I've got some questions. And they're like, oh no. All the way down. Yeah, it's like question 85.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's cool. I mean, I feel that what you're saying. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
And I've had similar experiences, but I've got to a point in my life where I've like last year when I was 40 years old, my wife and kids bought me a hammock. Best present I've ever had. So
really?
I'm lying.
I've always wanted a hammock.
Oh my gosh, it's great.
I've always wanted.
I was lying in my back garden in my hammock, listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
And I've been into self-development the whole time, right? So I'm listening to this podcast and I'm cracking on, thinking, 40 years old. And every year I have this moment of reflection around my birthday.
Yeah.
What have I done since last birthday when I sat and reflected? And I decided, you know what, I don't want to be the 50-year-old PT.
No.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I just didn't want that.
Right.
I wanted, and I looked through all of my testimonials for my clients, and they all said very kind things about how I'd helped them achieve their goals and all that sort of stuff. But there was one line that was almost in every single one, and that was, Johnny helped me change the way I think. And I was just like, it hit me in that moment. Strangely enough, I was listening to a podcast of a person who's a life coach, and I was just like, maybe I'm not a PT. Maybe I've been like masquerading as one this whole time. Yeah, maybe that at one point that was my vessel for helping people. And what I discovered was, with health and fitness, if I give you a diet plan or some diet guidance, and I give you an exercise routine, I think you look good, man. If I give you diet guidance and a exercise plan,
right.
It should be that easy, right? Here you go, do that. But it's not that easy.
No, it's not.
Because people don't do it. Now, that's why I need to know how you think.
Yeah, 100%. And people need to be honest with themselves.
And that's hard.
They try and I've done it. I'm trying to manipulate myself into trying to be a certain way when I know how I think. I know that when I'm tired at the end of the day, I'm looking in the cupboards.
Yeah.
But and that is something I wanted to get onto as well, with the diet and the fitness thing. There's so many different there's so many gimmicks out there, there's so many lies and just absolute nonsense that's in the fitness industry that people just believe. The amount of diets that are out there that people be like, follow this one, follow that one, just take it easy a minute. And I think you need to go back to basics a little bit sometimes. Very often
in any situation, when it comes to creating permanent change, it comes back to the basics. Very often, I think. I mean, I don't have, I'm careful. I've got a friend named Andy Vincent who I did a podcast interview with recently, and we've known each other for a while. Yeah. And we're very conscious now that we're both the same age and that we don't want to come across like the grumpy old trainer. So we're very careful about what we say.
Old school grumpy.
Yeah. So I don't have any issues with the fitness industry, but I think it's about understanding that there's a lot of people in the fitness industry that have agendas.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and they're there to make money. And I think the fundamental thing is they work, some of these companies, not all of them, work very hard to convince you that you have an issue that they can solve, which is marketing 101. The first thing they ask you in any marketing is, what's the problem that you can solve that people have, and if you can't figure that out, guess what? You create one. You should be thinner. I could convince you that you need to be thinner and that. Oh, well, by the way, I do these shakes or I do these things, and that's what happens. But I think fundamentally the approach that I took to health and fitness was, quite honestly, probably the worst business model there ever was. My feeling was that I've done my job correctly when I know that person doesn't need me anymore. Mm-hmm. When they can say, Johnny, it's been great, thank you, I've learned all I need to go, I can go to the gym on my own, I can regulate my food intake, I'm drinking loads of water, I'm sleeping right, off I go. So if they've done that, then I've done my job. That's not brilliant business model, but that's just who I am. You know, I want to go on to the next person and help the next person. But I think what it comes down to is people need to realize that if they're using the word should, I should be getting up in the morning and going on the cross trainer. I should be eating the salad. I should be running. I should be going to the gym. Should's not a word that relates entirely to you. It's probably somebody else's agenda most of the time.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah, it's somebody else's agenda. Somebody's put that into your life. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. Because should, I want to. I'm going to.
And yeah, absolutely. And everyone's different. Everyone's got their own lives. Everyone's got their own stuff going on. And for me, I had to find a way to... So basically, I used to train. I used to do my training and my fitness in the evenings. So I do my work, stress out about getting home on time, and a little bit fatigued at the end of the day. Go and do my gym or my fitness or whatever it was that I would do, and get home, scoff my dinner, and it's like 6-7 o'clock. And I'm like, where's the day? I've got no time left to spend with my family. Yeah. That's only since I've had a family that I've had to find a way to create more time. Yeah. And I don't like getting up in the morning, mate. But I've had to start getting up. I get to the gym for 6 o'clock in the morning, so I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Nice.
And I tell myself that I know that I'm going to be disappointed with myself if I get to work and I've had a lie-in. I've rushed to get to work instead of getting up early, getting a coffee in, getting to the gym, feeling great, and I'm set up for the day. And the reason why I train is more psychological, really, for myself.
Yeah.
It's not about like I've been doing it for 15 years, and it's all for me about just getting in the zone.
Yeah.
And setting myself up for the day.
I'll tell you what I'm interested in what you just said there was the perspective of it. Like, I'll be disappointed in myself if I don't go.
Yeah.
Are you proud of yourself when you do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. See, that's where you should focus.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people always think about what things are taken away from them, not what things are giving them.
Yeah.
When somebody, when somebody comes to me and we evidently have to look into their diet a bit more, and it might be that we need to eat less food. So that means that in some scenarios, things need to be taken away from them. So, okay, what's the poison? Is it wine? Is it biscuits? Is it cake, chocolate? What is it that what are your screw it foods? The ones that if I put, there are some people, if you put a bowl of crisps in front of it, like if I said to you right now, would you like some crisps? You'd be like, no, I'm okay. But if I bring a bowl of crisps in here, we'd both be doing this. And it's just that type of food. It's that hedonic sort of food, isn't it?
Like, going back to like a few things I said about like all the little weird and wonderful things in the fitness industry that, like you said, people sort of manipulate you into thinking. I don't know how hard it is and why it's taking so long for people to understand that if you eat too many calories and you don't move enough, you're going to gain some sort of weight. And I think a lot of people confuse body fat with weight as well.
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yeah. Weight is
especially in men more than women, because women don't care about muscle as much as men, do they?
No, it does seem to be a trend. I think there's a lot of old information that gets, and you can look at it from many perspectives, psychological, sociological, whatever it is you want to look at it from. There's lots of reasons why women don't want muscles.
And that's fine.
Yeah, and that is fine. Yeah, it is fine. Everybody's different.
And same for men. Not everyone wants to be Dwayne Johnson.
No, but it's about understanding what you want. There was people in the beginning who came to me who were, I hate this term, but they were classified as morbidly obese. Which is just like the worst term ever.
Is that like a BMI thing?
It could be multiple things. It could just be their weight in general and their weight to height. So yeah, the BMI, I suppose. But I don't like BMIs. So
well, no, you can be like 6'4" and 19 stone full of muscle with no body fat.
The thing about BMIs is that they were. I was told once they were originally invented to measure weight over populations.
Right.
So there were three things involved in a BMI that can't be manipulated.
Right. Okay.
One is their gender, one is their height, and one is their weight. And there's a calculation between height and weight, and it gives you BMI. That can be done over populations. You don't need to know a lot about somebody to do that. You don't need to. But that's the problem. Yeah. And that was the cure to that. So that was the solution to that problem, measuring populations. It was also the problem because when you bring it to an individual level, you have a 6'5" rugby player ripped to shreds who's a morbidly obese. Yeah. So it doesn't make sense.
No, like and they're, like you said, ripped to shreds. They're healthy. They're fit.
Yeah.
They take care of themselves.
Yeah. But it's just like everything. It's like anything, isn't it? It's like, when you release this podcast, you'll get loads and loads of reviews from people saying how great it is. And then there might be one...
Or not.
Well, no, I'm sure you will. But there might be one person who decides they don't like it.
Yeah.
That will be the one you obsess over.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's what will happen. And that's what happens with people is, a 6'5" ripped to shreds guy looks at the BMI and laughs at it, thinks it's silly.
Yeah.
But there'll be some housewife who goes to the doctor because they've got a chest infection, and their doctor will tell them their BMI is too high and that they're morbidly obese, and that if they didn't have this weight that they need to lose that, and it's just like, guess what that does? That destroys their self-esteem, self-confidence. And what does she do for that? She goes home and eats. So it's this perpetual cycle.
It's a vicious circle, isn't it?
And that's why, for me, I realised at this time in my life that I need to come out of the fitness industry, because if I want to make permanent change, I want to, through the medium of my podcast, have interesting conversations with people who are lifting the lid on this nonsense and talking about, hey, look, you've got to change the way you think, because you do. There's lots of stuff that, your body wants to follow routine all the time. That's what it will do.
I'm terrible for that.
It does. And,
that's what killed me in lockdown. So, like, I don't know. If I'm not training, I'm not eating right. If I'm not, and I'm all or nothing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of an all or nothing guy.
You should look into
perfectionism.
Perfectionism.
Yeah.
I think much like myself, I suffer from some of this stuff myself, and I'm working on it all the time.
But like in the first lockdown, gyms were shut. I had a 6 kilo kettlebell that was my missus' kettlebell from under the stairs, and I was like, did it for about 3 weeks. Like, this ain't for me. And I just just chilled out, put on a load of weight, and do you know what? For the first time, I wasn't looking in the mirror thinking, oh, I wish I had bigger arms, or I wish I wasn't as chubby as I am, or I just thought it doesn't matter.
No, you don't look like what you think. You look good, man. Yeah, when I walked in, I was like, well, I should have wore the thicker jumper,
It's an extra small, right?
Oh, yeah.
But like, as a young man who's, especially in the gym, I've, like I said, I've been training for so many years now, and as a young lad going in, transitioning into a man, and you're in that sort of alpha male environment, like the gym that I used to train in, it was all guys, and they're all bodybuilders, and I was a skinny little guy, and I put on a bit of size, and everyone's looking at, he's getting big, and and who cares? And it's taken me so many years to figure out that it doesn't matter how big your biceps are and how much that guy over there is lifting, and his form's terrible.
Yeah, you're missing the wood for the trees, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're in a small cult-like environment where what's important to these people is how strong you are, how tanned you are, how big this is, how big that is.
And because they want people to like them.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. But it's like anything. I'm not saying things are right or wrong. What I'm saying is you need to be aware of them. Once you're aware of them and you know that this is going on, that this is what's happening. So when someone comes up to you, sometimes when we wrestled, it was important to be bigger, and everyone was trying to be bigger all the time,
Right.
And sometimes if you wanted to get in someone's head, they would walk up to you and they would say this one thing: have you lost weight? And they would be like, and it was just like, oh no, savage, but it was to get into their head. And it's like, so they're aware of it enough to know that it can be used as a weapon, but yet they still allow it to be used on them. And so it's about understanding. For me, I've come to the great place in life, and again, nothing's forever. You know, when we're in self-development, it's every day. You know, you can nail Monday, but guess what? Return to default. Tuesday's got to start again. All them limiting beliefs and insecurities and values and belief issues that you have, they're all going to come back up again on Tuesday.
And it's amazing how the day can start so well, and finish so badly, or the other way around. Yeah, and that's down like if I have a really bad day, I've had a horrendous day, like I've hit the snooze button. I love that button. Yeah. And
I took it off my phone.
I get normally an elbow if I don't get up. Like say, you know, I've not got my workout in. I've not got a decent breakfast. I've had a late lunch. I've just got something really rubbish. I've not drunk enough water. You know, I've not got enough sleep. I've had some really bad jobs on in the day. I've got home late. I'm a little bit worse for wear. Like I always try and tell myself, right, tomorrow is a new day. Yeah. Because you can so easily carry that on to the next day, can't you? You can so easily just bog yourself down. Yeah. I mean,
it's what I was just saying to you about perfectionism. All of those things are signs of perfectionism, and it's not an insult. It's, and it's very easy to be, if you're a perfectionist, to mask it under the feeling of I'm just working harder than everyone else. And it doesn't help with things like social media. Keep grinding 24/7. You know, you should be working when the others are sleeping. It's like nonsense.
That
it's
whole like
unsustainable.
As much as I like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like getting 4 hours of sleep at night is not a good thing.
It's not. It's like you know, people take that on as that's the way to be. You know, like Dwayne Johnson is as we mentioned a few times, very successful man, and he gets up at 5 a.m. He has to get up at 5 a.m. Do you imagine how much he has to do?
Yeah.
Do you know, he hasn't got much choice.
Yes, exactly.
And when you're comparing yourself to somebody like that, don't lose sight of the fact that he is getting paid millions to look that way. That's a heck of a motivator.
He's got a lot of pressure to look at that.
A lot of pressure, and he has a lot of anxieties and a lot of I don't know this, but you know, I've seen interviews where he's saying to, you know, he's looking at himself in the mirror before he goes out and does things and saying, you can do this, and I'm like, of course you can, you're Dwayne Johnson.
What is that like called when you're obsessed with how you look?
I don't know,
like body
body dysmorphia. Yeah. Well, that's
get that in like people that are obese, like anorexic, people that are, you know, like,
again, it comes from that should, doesn't it? Comes from that you should look this way. Why? Like no one asks why. And do you know what's interesting? One of the tricks that I use very often, if I haven't got a lot of time, because I want to make it clear that asking somebody why often isn't helpful, because it makes them internalize how they feel, and eventually they'll end up blaming themselves, and it then has a negative effect. But if you're trying to get to the bottom of something, or at least prove a point, so maybe you're trying to get someone to understand that that what they're saying is a house built on grass, so it's got no foundations. You'll say, ask them why 5 times, and you'll find that by the time you get to the third why, they'll say, because it is. And then you'll go, doesn't sound like that's got a lot of foundations to it. Should we look into that? And they'll get frustrated. You know, nothing surprises me more than the consistency of people defending things that they say they don't want. So somebody is unhappy.
What do you mean by that?
So somebody's unhappy with their weight. Someone's unhappy with their job. Someone's unhappy with their partner. But yet, as a friend, you start to challenge that. Well, why don't you do this? Well, why don't you do that? And they get angry with you. You know, they get cross at you. And they say, well, you know, there's lots of stuff you don't understand. There's lots of stuff. And well, help me understand. No. It doesn't matter. Anyway, let's not talk about it anymore. You know, and it's because like you're challenging something that hasn't got any validity, hasn't got any foundations. And that's terrifying. It goes back to what we were saying before. You know, most of the time, truthfully and honestly, when it comes to self-development, permanent change, personal development, self-help, whatever it is, most people are too scared to know what they should do or what they could do, because it means they have to change something probably quite big, you know.
And people also like people do want to be like better, don't they?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nobody wants to be like worse off. They always want to be like, they might be happy with what they've got, and some people are quite happy doing their 9 to 5,
absolutely,
earning an average wage and having an average life and just accepting life for what it is and being happy and grateful for what they've got.
Oh man,
and
that's the
there's
dream.
nothing wrong with that.
No, that's perfect. Matter of fact, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, I'm not built that way.
No, and neither am I. And
yeah,
you know, and some people just have that inkling to just do a bit more.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that was always important to me as a trainer and now as a coach is exactly as you just said. It's absolutely fine to want to make a change. That's fine. But don't do it because you hate yourself. Don't look in the mirror and say, I hate the way I look, I want to make a change, because that motivation will not hold up when it gets hard.
No.
Look at yourself and go, I accept myself for who I am. I like the way I look. Wouldn't mind improving this because I love myself enough to do that. So I'm going to do that. So when it gets hard and I want to reach for that beer, or I want to reach for that chocolate, or I want to eat the bowl of crisps in the middle of the table, I'm going to go, no, you love yourself too much for that. You know, you want that. You want this thing more, don't you, Johnny? Come on, stop being silly.
Yeah.
And you can have like you just laugh because, and that's what you should be having fun with yourself.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be going, no, you're greedy, fat, you're this, you're that. You know, all that. I mean, the worst for it, in my experience, are women. Some of the stuff they say to themselves, the way they refer to themselves, is heartbreaking. I have to tell my wife off all the time. I say, I know it's you saying it about yourself, but I still don't want to hear it. No, you know, because it's horrible. Some of the stuff they say to themselves, and there's no need for it. No. You know, like. Who says that you've got to be a size 12? Who says you've got to be able to do this and do that, and that you should have, you know, like these days, if you're not careful, you know, you've got to have your eyebrows done, you've got to have your nails done, you've got to have your teeth whitened, you've got to have tanning, you've got to have extensions. It's like, well, no wonder you've lost your identity, you know, and and if you want to do those things because you feel good about it and it makes you feel great, that's a brilliant reason to do it. But if you want to do it because of some external pressure, then I would look into that a bit more, you know, if I'm honest.
And like, I think that comes down to, like if you're looking at other people for the answers to become happy, like I wanted to touch on this anyway, but like you said, you know, if you're looking for, if you're comparing yourself to other people, say you're comparing yourself to this size 6 model on Instagram that's got 1.5 million followers and promotes clothes, like there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, but you're not going to be that person necessarily, are you? You know,
you can only be you
can only be yourself. And if you're trying to be like that, like, you know where I'm going with this, don't you?
I think so.
Like people want, I want to be like that, but why don't you want to be like yourself? I mean, you know, what's wrong with being you?
Well, this is the thing, and that's why I think fundamentally, you know, I'm moving towards self-development outside of PT, because I want to help and support somebody firstly grow to love themselves before they make any changes. You know, like I developed a course over lockdown, and I'm releasing it hopefully in the next month. And it's called The Life School, and it works fundamentally on helping people identify their values and beliefs, because over time we get misguided limiting beliefs. Other people give you theirs. You know, you live with somebody, you start to adopt some of their behaviors and their their values and their beliefs. And the fact is, your values, what you value most in the world, what you believe in most in the world, is your moral compass for making decisions and taking action day to day. You know, so if that's misguided and you're not in line with that, guess what? You're probably going to become unhappy. You're probably going to, you know, a great example was my wife. She's a kind, charitable, beautiful soul. And when we first came to Cornwall, I won't mention the name of the company, but she could only get a job, which was basically ringing people and asking for money. And it destroyed her. Because that's not who she is. No. That does not fit with her values at all. Matter of fact, there was a risk that she was going to give some of these people her own money at one point, because she was so concerned. She would go to sleep thinking about this story that someone had told her during the day, multiple people, about how we've got 4 kids and they haven't got any money, and now you're ringing me and asking for this and I haven't got it. And she wouldn't stop thinking about it. It would destroy her, because her values and beliefs are charitable, are kind. There's nothing wrong with that job. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that she didn't fit that mold. And if you take that and you apply that context to your entire life, if you're not living your values and beliefs, which is really easy to do, you will become unhappy. You know, you will become unhappy, and you're consistently forcing yourself yourself to do things. And the other thing to that is that you have far more control over your life than you realize. You know, lots of people around you, you know, I enjoy this theory called your conditioned self versus your genuine self.
Right.
And what it's saying is that the world around you from the moment that you're born all the way to where you are now has conditioned you to be a certain way. You can't do this when you're here. You must wear that when you're there. You must do this. You must do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. Before you know it, you're conditioned to behave and be a certain way. Well, what does it look like when you're just you? When you're just genuinely yourself? A good example of it is, and I see it a lot, I work a lot with women, I work a lot with mothers. And a lot of mums, a lot of women, they put aside a lot of their own values, needs and beliefs in life to look after their children. And they grow up, they bring their children up and they sacrifice a lot, you know, a lot of sleep, a lot of time, a lot of things that they want to do that they just can't do because they haven't got time, and all these things, and they slowly lose their identity over time.
Yeah.
And then their kids,
I definitely.
Well, their kids get older and their kids go off to uni and they go through this massive identity crisis. Who am I without my children? Who am I when I'm not mum? Who am I when I'm not this, that? You know, they don't know who they are anymore. No. And they become super unhappy, you know, and in a lot of cases I've seen people go onto antidepressants because they can't cope with it. They don't understand. They're confused. They're stuck. They're absolutely stuck. And for me, I know when I'm in the right place with working with somebody, when they can't articulate how they feel, they just say, I'm just stuck. And I go, okay, I can help you with that. Because what that means to me is very possibly they've just fallen out.
They want to become unstuck as well.
They do. They want to, but they just don't know how. They don't know how. And my job is not to give, as a coach, I do not give answers. I do not give advice. You know, what I do is I sit with you and I support you in you, because all the answers are in you. They have to be. They can only be. But how am I going to tell you what you want?
No, exactly. And
doesn't make any
but
sense.
Some people are willing to accept that, aren't they? Some people are willing to accept that, like you just said, like we just said then, people want to make a change.
Yeah.
So some people are willing to accept that life is just what it is at the minute.
Yeah.
And they don't want to make change.
I mean, I'm not.
Or they don't know how to.
Yeah.
That's where you come in.
I think that's a better way of explaining. I think people wouldn't, if people accept, when you accept something, there's a peace that comes with acceptance. There's a huge peace that comes with acceptance. Realizing, and that's the cure to perfectionism, is realizing, you know, if you're anything like me, you'll probably laugh now. How often, daily, hourly, minutely, do you try to influence a situation that's no longer within your influence? Yeah, I do it a lot. You know, I'll do something and I'll know that right here is where my influence stops. But I'm still meddling way past that point. And I'm like, I should just stop here and allow and submit to the universe and say, let that be what it is.
Yeah.
It either work or it won't. I've done all I can do now, you know. But I think when it comes to acceptance, there's a piece that comes with it. And if somebody is stuck and they feel stuck and they want to be unstuck, or they're aware of being stuck, then they may not have accepted it, but they might just not have the strength, you know, to push through that barrier. You know, when you break your leg, you get given a crutch, you know, until you're strong enough to walk on your leg. And that crutch is temporary, and you know it's temporary. You don't get given a crutch and think, okay, this is me for the rest of the life, then it's me, you know, Johnny now comes with a crutch. You know, it's not that, is it? You know, and I think that's
just offering a little bit of support until you're back on your feet.
Yeah, and I think if antidepressants do anything, that's what it does.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to speak about antidepressants. I'm not qualified to, but you know.
Sorry, touching on that, I watched a documentary recently with, do you know the rugby player Joe Marler?
Oh, I think. Have
you seen that?
I saw it advertised and it's on my list to watch.
He was. I also watched a podcast with him and James Haskell, and he was touching on.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, it was. They are. Yeah, you've got to go and watch that.
Yeah, I think I will.
So when Joe was when he was speaking about like going on to antidepressants, he was really reluctant to do that, and he spoke to the doctor at the rugby club that he plays for, and you know, he was like, "Why are you so reluctant to go onto the medication?" He's like, "Well, you know, I feel like I can do it myself, and you know, I don't. I've heard a lot of bad things about them, and you know." And he was like, well, compare it to if you were ill and you were in hospital and the doctor gave you antibiotics, to make you better, would you take them? And he said, well, yeah. And he said, so why won't you take, that's for your body, your physical body. So why won't you take antidepressants, take these meds to help your mind? And, that they're going to help you become better in a way. You might be on them for longer than some other people, you might not be, but they are there to help you.
They are. They antidepressants are, I believe, and this is my personal belief, they are like a crutch. And obviously there are exceptions to the rules. There are people that have got deep and serious mental illness, and I'm not talking about those people. No. I'm talking about everyday people that are stuck, they are struggling, and they need a bit of a crutch, a little bit of help to get through that hard point till they're strong enough to look after themselves. But the key to that part is this. When you break your leg and you have a crutch, there is most likely some sort of rehabilitation. There's some homework to do. And that's the bit that people miss, because going on antidepressants is okay as long as alongside it you're doing some work on yourself to identify what's happening with you,
absolutely.
And how you feel.
And you've got like the chemical imbalance and things like that. But like, say for instance, I don't know, if we talk about PTSD, right? Yeah. Say someone was suffering with PTSD, things are really struggling. They've gone to the doctors. The doctor's gone, right, well, I'm going to give you some antidepressants to help you with this. Yeah. Sometimes I think people think that the antidepressants are going to give them all the answers.
Yeah, the fix. Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's just a crutch.
Yeah.
And I think, having PTSD isn't a chemical imbalance. That's a situation that's happened in your life, and you need to work that out.
There's some science to say that PTSD is unprocessed memories. It's unprocessed thoughts, it's unprocessed experiences. So if you and I go through an experience together and we process it and we put it in the past, we're able to move on from it.
Yeah.
But it's almost like if a record's going around, do you remember records, and they get stuck sometimes, and they would just replay the same thing over and over again. And that's how I look at PTSD. And I think, the science has said in some cases that if you can go back and revisit their memories and process them correctly, because the other thing to that is every time we revisit memories in our mind, we change them a little bit, because you might be really happy one day and you start thinking about something that happened to you, but you're looking at it through the lens of being happy. Next day you might look at it through the lens of being anxious, or the lens of being scared, or the lens of, and every time you go back to that memory, you alter it in some way, and you've affected that memory. And then next time you go back, you're looking at it through the lens of multiple lenses, aren't you? And it becomes like a house of mirrors.
But like, it is a funny one. I do think that, like, obviously it's very well known that there's not enough support for mental health anywhere, really, is there? Especially in Cornwall. It's really getting better, but it's nowhere near.
Well, people like Ross are doing Man Down, and obviously George's Voice and Sophie, and then you've got people like Lifetime in Truro. They're great.
But what, like, just touching on on the meds, like a GP isn't a mental health practitioner. They're not there to give you all the answers.
Well, they are a general practitioner.
They are, but I think it's very easy for them to just go, there you go.
Yeah.
And people
especially
will
when
take
they've only got 10 minutes.
And people will take them, and they probably won't go and get the help they need. They're just happy to sit on these meds and not actually address the issues that are causing them to need the meds. And it's quite a strange sort of, I wouldn't say it's a corrupt industry.
No, but it's definitely
it's sort of just
it's misaligned. It's not the thing about self-development. As a coach, I'm not a psychotherapist and I'm not a counsellor.
No,
but if I was to define coaching, the difference is that we're forward focused. Coaches are forward focused. We will acknowledge your trauma and things that have happened to you, because inevitably it's keeping you where you are. But we're not there to, you don't need to tell me your stories as such. You can if you want to, but I won't be commenting on it. But it's about being forward focused. It's about taking you from where you are to where you want to be. And that doesn't mean you want to be a Hollywood movie star. It just means you want to be maybe in a better place or a more positive place or whatever. But a lot of the time when people take antidepressants, as you say, that they might think that that's it, they're on antidepressants for the rest of their life. And in some cases that might be true. But most cases, you do that self-development alongside it, you know, so you focus on yourself, because the truth be told, there is no book, there is no course, there is no person, seminar, whatever, that's going to fix you. And first of all, you don't need fixing. You're not broken. You just, a couple of things are a bit out of line. You know, values and beliefs probably is the one I would go to first. Yeah. And the way I describe that is, you know, it's hard talking to you about computers because you only just got one, but you realise that it's like, all right, shots fired. Yeah, sure. But like, you know that there's going to be updates on this, right? Yeah. Yeah. So App Store will tell you, oh, you know, you need to update to the latest program. Yeah. Well, if you don't do that, your computer will start to slow down. Yeah. Programs will stop working correctly. And that's your values and beliefs for human beings. You know, you need to update them, because guess what? Your values and beliefs when you're 16 are not the same as when you've got a kid at 35. Absolutely not. They're very, very different.
Mate, I'm not that old, all right?
Well, I'm older than that. I was 41 on Friday. But yeah.
I wasn't going to ask.
Yeah, but you know, so if you think of it like that, it's the software you're running in your, you know, your body's the hardware. The software that you're running is your values and beliefs. Yeah. And if your values and beliefs are outdated, you're going to feel slow. Things aren't going to work. No. Things aren't going to move the way they want to move, you know. So if you get stuck and you're in a really dark place and you know, God forbid, you're considering, you know, doing bad things,
there will be people watching this that might be, you know.
Then first things first, get help. Absolutely get help. Lean on people, get support. Choose the right people if you can, but at this point, if you're really in a dark place, then get help. And like I said, there are places here in Cornwall, and you know, I can only really speak of Cornwall. You know, Man Down for Men has just been a game changer. You know. And
what Ross has done with that is incredible, and Brad as well. What they've done with Man Down is incredible.
Yeah, and they're going from strength to strength, and you know, you can only wish them success, because one day you might need them.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? It's not, because guess what? No one's immune to this stuff. Nobody is immune to this stuff. Yeah. You know, everybody suffers with mental, emotional health problems. You know,
that's something that I remember. Because Prince Harry, I'm sure it's Prince Harry's quite like, I think he's an ambassador for mental health, and he touched on something once in a speech that he gave, and he said, we've all got mental health. So when someone says, like, if someone's struggling, they go, oh, they've got mental health. Well, yeah, everyone's got mental health. Yeah, their mental health is a little bit worse for wear.
Mental health challenges.
Yeah, everyone's got mental health, and people put it as a, like, oh, they've got mental health, but like, that doesn't mean anything.
No, no. It's the challenges, isn't it? And it's like people often striving for happiness. Yeah, happiness is deliberately and intentionally a fleeting feeling. You know, you only know you're happy because you're not so happy other times. And I think it's a temporary feeling within us, and people feel like they have to be happy all the time. That's not happiness. That's manic.
Yeah.
If you meet somebody who has challenges,
you drive yourself crazy trying to be happy 24/7.
Yeah, you can't be, and it's not good for you. Could you imagine in certain situations? Imagine, you know, you're walking down an unsafe neighborhood and some guy approaches you and, you know, he's aggressive or whatever. Like, there's a reason why we've got that aggression and anger, is to defend ourselves, protect ourselves. And God forbid our families with us, you know? And you're not going to go, hi! I'm going to kill you with kindness. I mean, to be fair, it might work. I think I'd be scared.
You'd probably be like, I'm not going to bother.
You know, but you know, delicately, you know, you meet people with, and I mean this respectfully, and I'm trying to put this as delicately as I can. If you meet people with bipolar, you know, there's a spectrum of being depressed all the way through to being really happy. And when they're really happy, that is considered manic, you know, and they get stuck in that. And I don't know a lot about it, so I shouldn't really talk a lot about it really, but you know, it's how it's been described to me by others. And it's the idea of that we should be happy all the time is just unrealistic and unsustainable, and you set yourself up for failure. And then guess what that does? It chips away your self-esteem and your self-confidence, and you feel failure.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think people look for happiness in the wrong ways, in the wrong areas.
Externally.
Like we touched on earlier about social media.
Yeah.
People think that is the key to, like, what that person's life that they're posting on their fake Instagram page is, you know, that's happiness. When
it's a game.
It's a game. Yeah.
It is. If you look at it in every sense and purpose, you know, I was a big fan of Nintendo when I was a kid. I used to play Mario, you know, stuff like Mario Kart and all that sort of stuff. It's a game. Social media is a game, you know, and it's a game that you can cheat at.
Yeah.
You know, we can all cheat.
Definitely.
You know, when you go to the magazines and you get the hack codes and you're invincible and all this sort of stuff, you can buy followers. Like, you can edit your photos.
Yeah, and you can, I know people. I know people that have got a lot of followers, and like, I know what they look like. And you know, like, I don't say anything. It's not my place to say. But
yeah,
you know,
it's more about them, though, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
I think it's about them and well, I don't know what it's about.
But
I can pretend.
I think that people, like we were saying, people searching for happiness and trying to find it externally, they're never going to be happy because they're not looking within themselves for happiness.
But that's why gratitude is so important. Yeah. Because gratitude is practicing acknowledging your happiness every day. Yeah. So yesterday, my son gave me the best cuddle ever and it made me happy. Yeah. My dog did something ridiculous, and I'll tell you what makes me happy, watching my dog eat a crisp. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. It makes me laugh so much. It makes me happy. But that's happiness. That's what happiness is. It's that feeling. Contentment could be something you could maybe look for. You could feel content with your life, like you spoke about. You know, you've got this wonderful life. You know, you've got like nice family set up, nice home set up. You know, contentment.
It's not perfect.
No, nothing's perfect because, you know, inevitably for all of us around the corner, as life has proved just recently, it could be illness, could be people losing people, could be losing your job. It could be all sorts of things that come along, and that's part of the roller coaster of life, you know. And guess what? It will make you unhappy, and that's probably the right emotion. You know, when I was wrestling, if I got punched really hard in the face, I didn't look up and say thanks, because it's like I wasn't happy about it. It hurt.
Do they actually punch you? Like,
oh yeah.
I always just think that they like. I don't know.
Listen, wrestling, right? People talk about it as it's fake. It's not fake. It's scripted.
Right.
You know, we were told when we were going to win and lose, but when we got in the ring, depending on who it was, it hurt like hell. Yeah. I remember sitting in car journeys, coming back from events, not being able to move, just slowly turning to stone. You know, and I'd just be like, you know, there's no way you can leave the ground and land and it not have an impact on you.
Oh yeah.
You know, and when
no matter how bouncy the ring is.
I mean, and a lot of them wasn't. A lot of them was just plywood and a piece of mat that's probably about 50 years old. You know, so it was it was an experience. But yeah, you know, happiness is a fleeting emotion, and just like anger is, you know, and you can get stuck in those emotions. And again, it comes back to that self-awareness. And when you talk about social media, it's the perfect tool, you know, for disrupting that. Yeah. You know, you've got comparison. You know, it's very easy to look on there, take a snapshot of somebody's life and compare yourself to it. Especially when you're not, you know, lockdown was terrible for that. Yeah. Most of us didn't get out of our loungewear. We're sat around the house. We're struggling with homeschooling. You know, we're not allowed to go out. We've got all these restrictions. And then you've got some guy living his life in Dubai, or someone like that. And it's like, wow.
I've sort of changed how I look at social media. Yeah. Like, I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. So I've recently sort of gone into who I follow, and sort of unfollowed quite a few people that really I feel that aren't really offering any value to myself. So unless they're friends or their family or they're someone I'm interested in, like who are of value, then I'm not really interested in someone's six-pack in Dubai. Yeah, it does nothing for me.
There's narcissists, isn't it? You know,
and I think it's strange. Like when we're talking about happiness, is that social media, people find the social, I think it's sort of spread to like generate. I remember when my grandparents and like older people never had Facebook. No. And all of a sudden, like Pat from the post office now has Facebook, who's like in her late 70s, and she's going in on this guy about something she knows nothing about. And it's like there's a lot of hate coming out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I put a video on social media called Stop Spreading Hate.
I've seen that.
And have you read the comments?
Yeah, I did, and I know which one you're talking about.
It was quite incredible to me, because I thought to myself, I wanted to reply, maybe watch the video again.
Yeah.
Because I'm not talking.
No, you did the right thing by not replying.
No, I think it's best. You know, it did get to me. I'm not going to lie. You know, I did read some of that. And
frustration.
Well, I want to help. I want to understand that thinking and offer a different perspective.
I just think well, sorry. I just think that person or people, they just, I don't think they fully understand.
No, and that's okay. That, you know, you're only ready to understand what you're ready to understand. And you know, there's a great proverb I heard once, and it's a son looks to their dad and says, "Dad, every year you get smarter and smarter," and it's because the child is understanding is growing, and you know, one day they hear something and it doesn't mean anything. And the next day they hear it and they go, "Oh,
yeah."
You know, and that's where people are. You know, like, you don't know till you know, which is a very annoying statement, but it happens to have a lot of value. But you know, comparison is a big deal. On you know, like, if me and you were, say you were arguing with your missus, right, and you wouldn't stop midway and take a selfie, would you, and then post it? Because why would you want anyone to know you're arguing? But gosh, if you're out at a cocktail party living your best life, you might do that. You know, and that's the problem. We're only getting one side of the argument. It's like when you read or see social media posts, and they've taken one piece of a study and they've manipulated the results to look like it supports a certain view. And that's what they do with social media. You get false information, and it creates unrealistic expectations. You have somebody who is probably taking performance enhancing drugs, is paid, basically, it's their job to look a certain way, and then they promote a shake or they promote a certain diet, and they may not say it, but the implication is that this is how they achieved it. You know, and then before you know it, you know, you've got lots of people who are further perpetuating their problem by now having a failed diet on their thing. Well, they can do it, why can't I?
That sort of, you know, I reckon since maybe like in the last 10 years, like the whole secret about like say, okay, we'll go for instance, say within the fitness industry, bodybuilders, right? Yeah. So they used to deny taking any like performance enhancing drugs. Yeah. Categorically deny it.
Yes.
And then one of them opened up and said, "Oh yeah, we all do it." Like Arnold, he said it, and I think someone else, and all the other guys were like, "Oh right, now we've got to tell the truth." But you read the magazines and it'll say, "I take this creatine, I take this protein," and like you just said, you think, "Oh, that's the key," to, you know, and it's there's so much more to it than that. It's hidden behind something else. Yeah,
to achieve. When you look at somebody like that, that is elitist results. That's top shelf results. That's an overwhelming amount of dedication to one thing. Most people aren't willing to do that, and that's all right. That's the right way to be, potentially.
Because people have got normal lives.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like we can't do that. We can't do that. And you know, when it comes to performance enhancing drugs, you know, in most cases, what it does is it enables you to recover. You know, so you can, you know, for example, I'm 40. I was 41 on Friday. A couple of Fridays back, and I hope he listens to this because he ruined me. Yeah, my podcast producer, who's in his 20s, he came over to train with me in the gym, and he went off and he lived his life. I couldn't walk for a week because he's in his 20s. And it's like I say to my clients all the time, it's not what you can do, it's what you can recover from. And if you take performance enhancing drugs, you'll be able to recover from it. However, there are lots of downfalls to taking performance enhancing drugs. And actually, when it's all said and done, really, what does it give you? So you've got a six-pack, you're built and all these things, or you've lost weight and you've achieved your goal, but what then? All of a sudden you find yourself still unhappy. All right, so it didn't make me happy, so what does that mean? You know? It just
like people looking for that as the answer to their happiness.
Find out what your values and beliefs are, challenge your limiting beliefs, figure out what you want from life, and start constructing your life towards being that person. You know, that is the advice I give to someone who wants to make positive change. You know, the other part to that as well is your influences. understanding what influences you, and it's most often people. So there'll be people in your life that, and I don't like the term toxic people, because I don't believe that there are toxic people. I believe there are toxic behaviours.
Yeah.
I don't think there are toxic people. I don't think anyone is inherently bad. You know, I think some people will disagree with that. But I like to believe, that's my preference. I like to believe that no one's inherently bad. They've just learned really bad behaviours, and that's been supported by their environment. You know.
Yeah.
If you take some of the worst people in history, their environment supported that behavior, you know, and so, you know, where you are, so people, places and things, they are what influence us.
So would you say like you are a product of your environment, or because like for you, taking you as an example, you aren't that product of that. I wouldn't say.
Oh, no.
You wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? Where you've come now.
Yeah, I was a product of my environment at the time.
At the time, right.
Yeah, and that's what's important to understand. And that's, you know, that's where you find yourself unhappy. See, I was conditioned as a kid to be unhappy. You know, I was being beaten, you know, a lot at home. There was psychological and physical violence. At school, I was dyslexic and undernourished, so I was not sporty or academic, so I was failing at that. Right. I'm mixed race, so, you know, building relationships with white and black people, there was a problem with being accepted because I was neither, you know. So in all areas of my life, I was being let down. So at the time I was unhappy. The problem is when I become happy, or my environment supports happiness, I'm unable to accept it because I don't know how.
No.
You know, and it took me a long time. I remember going into, I went to a therapy session. And the first therapy session I went into, I looked at this lady across from me and she said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "I have no financial problems. I have a gorgeous wife. I live in a wonderful house and I've got the job of my dreams. Why am I so unhappy?" That was the first thing I said to her. You know, there were days where I'd disappear into a dark room and I wouldn't come out for a day or two because I just wasn't able to function. You know, I ended up using alcohol as a support mechanism for a little while, and that didn't serve me. No. It worked at the time, you know, stopped me from being in my own thoughts. But obviously it has negative things that go along with it. So, you know, your environment, my environment now supports the person I want to be and the person I'm realizing I am. You know, I keep talking about who I want to be, and I said this to my friend the other day, and he says, "Johnny, you know you are that person, right?" And I'm like, oh. I hadn't reminded. I had not realized that, you know, I want to be a person that helps people. I want to be a person that supports people. I want to be seen as a positive person. Yes, I want to be successful. Nothing wrong with that, you know, but success to me doesn't mean what it means to somebody else. It doesn't mean I want to be super rich, super famous. No. It doesn't mean any of that. Success to me is when there's a litany of people that say, "Thank you, Johnny, you helped me, you supported me." I don't want the credit for it, you know, but I want to know I was involved in that process.
Yeah, definitely. Like if I can have this podcast, I you know, I have no aspirations to be famous. I don't know anyone want to be famous for.
No, it doesn't sound fun, does it?
No, not at all. But I just want this podcast and the people that come on it to, you know, help people watching this. Someone might be watching this and just be like, "Do you know what? That's right. What he's just said is absolutely right. I need to do that."
Yeah.
I've got this idea of, you know, I've had a child, you know, and I'm trying to get back into work. I don't want to do that career anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to work at Tesco's. Not that there's anything wrong with working at Tesco's, but
no, but they might want more.
I want to set up my own business, and I don't know how to do that, or, you know, I don't have the courage to do that. And if this podcast can help someone just watching this go, "You know what, I'm just going to go for it," then and that to me is
and it will do that. It will do that. You know, one of the things that I've learned about having a podcast myself is that it does do that, and people don't always tell you.
No,
you know, you might find out. You know, we've not been at parties and stuff, but you might go to a barbecue, and someone will go, "Do you know that podcast you did with so and so?" I say, "Yeah." They say, "That was amazing." Honestly, from that moment on, I've been buzzing. I've done this, I've done that. I've gone and done this course, and now I'm doing this, and my manager's noticed it. And it's just like, wow, that's from awesome. One podcast.
Makes it all worth it.
You know, it does. That's why you do it. That's not even that's about coaching. And it might not even been me that said something. It might have been the guest. So what?
Yeah.
I don't care how people get there. I don't need to have the credit. I just need to know that I was involved.
So what's next for you? Where are you taking obviously your podcast is doing really well.
Yeah.
And, you know, now you like to come away from the fitness industry, you said?
Yeah, I think I've done my bit for the fitness industry. I think that as a person, I've evolved past that now, and I think that I've learned enough about myself, and I'm confident enough of myself now to realise that I can step away from that crutch, of the fitness industry. Is what I always knew, is what I always was. I was always the gym guy, and now I'm not. I'm not that person. I'm a family man. I care about people's feelings, emotions, and I always have, but I've always denied that part of myself. But as I said, the podcast is doing great. Really grateful for that. And my focus now is
Life Talk.
Life Talk.
Yeah.
It's the self-development podcast on all popular platforms. But it's the Life School that is going to do it for me now. I put a lot of work into it, and we've done some trials, and there's been a significant amount of people on the trials that have been confident enough to come off antidepressants, which is a great sign.
That's awesome.
It wasn't the intention of it, because I'm not a psychotherapist, I'm not a counsellor, but it's amazing when you get people to start looking internally at themselves, what can come out of it. Yeah. And it is all them. I am strictly supporting people. That's all I'm doing. I'm not giving anyone any answers or any advice. I'm just supporting people, and I'm forcing them to look at themselves in the right way, so that they're able to move forward. So that's where I'm focusing at the moment. The Life School, that's hopefully launching within the next month if there's no issues.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, mate, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for asking me. I'm really grateful.
And I've really enjoyed doing this.
Same.
I think we've covered some really good, interesting things, and I think people will take something from this. So
I hope so. And as I said, thank you so much for inviting me on. The fact that you would want to sit and have a conversation with me and record it is an honour. So cheers, so cheers for that.
And same. All right, yeah. So you're gonna see the podcast in a couple of days. So
Oh really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, hopefully.
Oh, it's turning it over that quickly.
Yeah.
Good. I'll hold you to that. You might edit this out.
Yeah, I might do. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, nice one.
Nice one.